Shout out, this is the unbiased fan Brim Reaper. And I just wanted to cover a topic because this ended up becoming a debate and discussion. Terence Bud Crawford, by Spence fanaticals, say that he ducked everyone. They said he ducked Danny Garcia. They said he ducked Keith Thurman. And he was forced to fight Sean Porter. So let's clarify and actually get to the facts of this, and let's get off the propaganda train. Okay. First and foremost, the most important aspect is Danny Garcia was offered his highest guaranteed pay of his career, and still to this date, his highest guaranteed pay, which was 3 to 3.5 million guaranteed. He is not getting that much guaranteed in any fight with pay-per-view upside. Okay. Now, I'm going to end up eventually sharing those links so I can give you the documented proof that transpired beforehand. And he basically turned and walked away. And he ended up fighting, guess who, guys? Adrian Granados. How much did he make on that fight? About 1/4 of what he would have gotten fighting Terence Crawford in guaranteed money. So when I see people who are Spence fans, I have to debunk your propaganda and the fact that you like to live on falsehoods. And I mean, that person made that statement and a whole slew of people were like, that's facts. And I'm like, boy, y'all confirmation bias is so high that y'all don't want to look at reality. And I'm going to cover some Bud falsehoods at 1.2 because I want to make sure I keep it even. So I'll look at the Bud buddies in comparison to the heterosexuals, and I'll give you a counterpoint so y'all understand where I'm coming from in regards to the fans. So that's fighter number one. Danny Garcia, again, did not take his highest guarantee to fight Terence Crawford. Next, Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman, there was talks of him fighting Terence Bud Crawford. Now, before we get into the actual talks of fighting Terence Bud Crawford, we can go 3 years prior. 3 years prior, actually, it might have been 4 years prior. I think I'm correcting myself here. When Terence Crawford first got into the welterweight division when he moved up, what Keith Thurman told Terence Crawford is he has to prove himself in welterweight to earn the fight. But guess who didn't have to do the same thing? He didn't make that same statement for Danny Garcia. When Danny Garcia came up, he was more than willing to fight Danny Garcia, even though they both came from the same weight class. How come, Keith Thurman? Was Bud more of a threat than Danny Garcia? So you would tell Bud he has to earn it and prove it, but Danny Garcia you don't, and you fight him pretty much a fighter, I think one fight afterwards when he steps into that division? Help me out here. That does not equal Bud ducking. That looks like something else, and I'll wrap this up with a bow when I get to the end. So fast forward. Terence Crawford, Bob Arum, who was unsuccessful. We're going to keep it a bean. Bob Arum was unsuccessful getting Terence Crawford the fights. Bottom line. But now this has been disputed. But what has been reported is Keith Thurman asked for $10 million for the fight. Now, if Keith Thurman was the 2-belt unified champion as before, it would have more legs to stand on. Or I can say he's asking for a lot, but he's a champion. He's the big dog. But at this point, he had already lost to Manny Pacquiao, lost his belts, and so he was coming into a potential Terence Crawford fight with no belts and coming off a loss, asking for $10 million. Now, where I say Bob didn't get it done, let's say that Keith Thurman asked for 10. Where's the counter offer? Where's the $5 million? Where's, just, trying to find that mid range. I don't think he got the job done. Bob Arum is not in the business of doing business with other side of the street or different promotional companies. He is no different than PBC. What I say about PBC doing all these in-house fights and not wanting to fight other, it applies to almost every other promotional company. Okay, so what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So that covers Keith Thurman. So that's two fighters that people who are on Spence side so adamant saying that he ducked that there's clear evidence if you just do a little bit of research to see that that's not the case. Now, when it comes to Sean Porter, what the problem was is Sean Porter wasn't actually initially the mandatory, which will cover another aspect. Anybody say that Terence Crawford ducked Virgil Ortiz? Let's get it straight. Virgil Ortiz stepped to the other direction so Sean Porter can be able to get that fight. That's how long Virgil Ortiz had been into a mandatory position of being number one, right? He was there before Sean Porter got the fight with Terence Crawford. So we're talking now a solid 3 plus 4, almost 4 years, okay? And there's records that shows that Oscar De La Hoya and his team said he wasn't ready for the fight. Now, Ortiz might have been ready for the fight, telling himself that, but his handlers were moving differently. So when Bob Arum first offered Sean Porter a contract, he lowballed him. No surprise, it's Bob Arum. I think he offered him only like 1.1. But the thing that's so crazy about that is that's PBC usually gives their guys 1.5 with pay-per-view upside. But I can't fault Porter for that because he's dealing with a promotional company he hasn't dealt with before. So if I'm going to say that I don't have an issue with Bud when it came to Spence, I'll have to say the same thing for Sean Porter. Got to keep it even, right? So it was about to go to purse bid. So when it goes to purse bid, it could have been anybody's fight. And then, Top Rank loses out on that fight. So what Bob Arum did was up the ante. And when he upped that ante, Sean Porter ended up getting his highest guaranteed pay up front in his career. These are facts. Okay? And the rest is history. Sean Porter fought a little bit differently, a little more cautious, a little smarter, was hanging in there. Going into the 10th round, I had Bud only about 1 round, and then Bud did what made me change who I thought would win the fight, even though I was really on the fence. But what I saw in the 10th round against him and Porter let me know he has a different type of dog and a switch that can be cut on like this. That's extra special, okay? So, is there any other fighters that, if you take these 3 fighters and these 3 fighters are all on Terence Crawford's resume, the whole topic of Terence Crawford's resume is trash, he ain't fought nobody, would be squashed. And also, I think, even though I do believe Errol Spence's resume at 147 is greater than Terence Crawford's, it is overstated and over-exaggerated. Because the truth of the matter, if you add one Danny Garcia fight to Terence Crawford's resume at 147, is there any significant difference? It's probably not, if you want to be honest with yourself and not be on the Bud hate or over Errol Spence fan. And what happens is you have some of the Errolsexuals who are both. They're heavy, over-the-top Errol Spence fans who don't look at the reality of what Errol Spence is as a fighter. And they hate Bud. So everything is intensified. Every falsehood, every narrative is just magnified times 10, which is kind of crazy. And to sum up all the parts here, Terence Crawford was effectively frozen out of PBC fighters. And how come we know this? Is because when Terence Crawford and Errol Spence met in 2018, and note, when they met, this is right when Terence Crawford had re-signed with Top Rank. So everybody gets on him about re-signing with Top Rank, but before he re-signed with Top Rank, he had 3 fights with PBC fighters. That's another conversation, though. So, knowing that Errol Spence tells Terence Crawford, I can fight Sean Porter, right? And then he goes and names off names. He names Sean Porter, Mikey Garcia, Ugas, Thurman. 4 fighters. Out of those 4 fighters, he fought 3 of them. And then Bud asked him, Al didn't mention my name? And Spence said, no. So PBC probably advised their fighters not to fight Terence Crawford and deal with Top Rank. Top Rank does the same thing, but we're talking about this one scenario. So to say that Terence Crawford is ducking and has ducked these guys is blasphemy. When I said that before, it was the facts. It's blasphemy. Put down your fan hat of a fighter and put on your boxing fight fan hat so you can look at the reality. So I want to cover that. I will drop the links in this video as well in regards to the things that I'm talking about to give you the proof, because the burden of proof is on me for making these statements. So I'm going to show you guys that. I want to get comments from my Bud Crawford fans and from my Errol Spence fans. And I want to see how many of you guys agree with this or disagree. And if you disagree, show me, like Carfax. Show me. Show me. I'm in a state like Missouri. Show me. Shut me up. Because what I know I'm telling you is factoids. This is the unbiased fan addressing Terence Crawford ducking Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, and Porter before the Porter fight. Appreciate your time. Sub, like, subscribe. You already know what it is. God bless and good morning. One.